Right, welcome. If you don't have your packet out, make sure you open it up. You're going to open up to the 3.Systems of equations. So if you haven't taken it out yet, go ahead and pause this video till you get it out. When you take a look at that first page of systems, you'll notice that it's going to look a lot like this with this header. We're actually going to skip these first two that are graphing. We're going to come back to them probably next week and take a look at those. So we're going to move on to that bottom of the first page, question number 3, where it says a new method called substitution method can help you solve this situation. So notice we're going to do what we call the substitution method, and you guys know how to substitute. So for example, if I asked you y equals 3, and how would you substitute that into this second equation, you guys would have no problem saying, oh, we got to do negative x plus 2 times 3 equals 4. We're going to substitute that 3 in there. Well, we're going to do the exact same thing, only we're not substituting in a 3, we're substituting in a lot more. So we're going to substitute in this x minus 3 for the y value. So we've got this equation, negative x plus 2 y equals 4. So you'll notice here when we substitute in that x minus 3 for y, this red part all stays the same. Negative x plus 2 equals 4. The only thing that changes is now instead of the y, we're going to put what y is equal to, that x minus 3. So once again, instead of substituting in a 3, we're substituting in x minus 3. And then we just solve it like normal. So our first step here would be to distribute that 2. So again, negative x plus 2x minus 6, because 2 times negative 3 would be a minus 6, equals 4. Then I can combine like terms. I see a negative x and a 2x. So I'm going to get x minus 6 equals 4. And my last step would be to add 6 to both sides. Now when I'm solving a system of equation, I'm not only looking for x, but I want to find the x and the y values. So once I know what x is, I can go back to this first equation that we had up here and plug it in. Now it shouldn't matter what you plug it into, but you want to plug it into the easiest, and it's definitely by far easier to plug it into that top one. So we've got the equation y equals x minus 3, but now we know exactly what x is. X is going to be 10. So I'm going to substitute again, hence the name substitution method, and instead of writing x, I'm going to substitute in what x is equal to, which is 10. And then I can easily find out that y equals 7. So I know my two answers are going to be x equals 10 and y equals 7. And instead of leaving that as x equals 10 and y equals 7, we write it in coordinate form, where we've got x comma y. So I'm going to write my final answer as 10 comma 7 for that one. All right, if you look at this next, we've got 2 more problems here. So once again, why don't you try them on your own, pause the video, see if you can answer those questions. And if you're struggling, go ahead and turn it back on, and we can do them together. All right, so looking at these 2 problems, we know that we've got y equals 7 minus 2x, and I want to take that first equation, take that 7 minus 2x, and we're going to plug that in for the y value right there. So again, nothing else in this equation is going to change except for that y. So I'm going to rewrite that second one as 2x plus 4, but instead of writing y, once again I'm going to write what y equals, 7 minus 2x, and then finish writing that red part equals 10. So the only thing that changes in that second equation, that bottom equation, is that y. I'm now substituting in what y equals. My first step is going to be to distribute. So I can distribute that to make 2x plus 4 times 7 is going to be 28. And 4 times a negative 2x will be minus 8x equals 10. So by doing the substitution method, I no longer have 2 variables. I have 1 variable. That's something I can deal with, and I can just solve for x now. So combining like terms, 2x and a negative 8x makes negative 6x plus 28 is equal to 10. Next step, subtract that 28 over, subtract 28, and 10 minus 28 is going to give me a negative 18, which is going to give me a negative 6x. dividing by that negative 6, dividing by that negative 6, I get x is equal to a negative divided by negative is a positive, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So x equals 3. Once again, we're not done. Now that I know what x is, I'm going to plug that into that first equation. So we've got the equation y equals 7 minus 2x. But I now know what x is. X equals 3. So I can plug it in and get y is equal to 7 minus 2 times 3. 2 times 3, order of operations, we're going to do the multiplication before the subtraction. So 2 times 3 is 6. 7 minus 6. So then y is going to equal 1. And once again, we're going to write our final answer in x comma y form. So then I'm going to place that 3 in for the x and 1 in for the y and circle that as my final answer. All right, once again, feel free to pause the video, try B on your own if you can. If not, let's plug it in and let's take care of this. Steps, once again, I know what y is equal to. So we're going to take it and we're going to plug it in for that y value there. And nothing else is going to change except for that y value. So we're going to get 2x plus, once again, instead of y, we're going to write negative 3 halves x plus 5. And then finish writing the red part equals 10. All right, so I've got a fraction. Okay. Anytime I have a fraction, I will do my first step, which will be to eliminate that fraction. So I'm going to multiply everything in that equation by that denominator, which is 2. Because I see that there is a 2 right here, I can multiply everything in that equation by 2 and get a nice answer without fractions. So we will do 2 times 2x to get 4x. The 2 times the negative 3 halves x, well, those 2's just cancel. So I'm left with negative 3x. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. And lastly, 2 times 10 is going to be 20. So once again, I just multiplied everything by 2 to get rid of that fraction. Completely legal. Combining like terms, 4x minus 3x is just going to be x. Plus 10 equals 20. And then we subtract the 10 and get x is equal to 10. Once again, that's great for the x, but we also have to find what y is. So I'm going to take my first equation. Y equals negative 3 halves x, but I know what x is. It's going to be 10. So I'm going to multiply this by 10 and then add 5 to it. So order of operations, y equals a negative 3 halves times 10. Do multiplication first. So that 10 and that 2 is going to cancel out. So 1 and 5. I divided each of those by 2 since the 10 is on the top and the 2 is on the bottom. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15 plus 5. And my last step is y equals negative 10. And now that I know both my x and my y, I can write it in coordinate form. My x value is going to be 10, and my y value will be negative 10. A little bit trickier of one with that fraction, but if you just multiply through, you get 10 comma negative 10.